Pranam. I'm feeling very honored, and thank you, Hetal, for inviting me, and thanks to my dear hubby, Dr. Sandeep Chopra, for introducing me to this wonderful group of anesthetists. I feel a very warm bond with all of you, and I sincerely feel that all anesthetists, are very happy, content, peaceful, getting along with everyone, inclusive people who are, I think they are yogis by default, and sometimes I wonder, is it because they are the ones closest to witnessing the transition of life and death every moment? It's such a hats off to you, anesthetists. So there is a lot of synchronicity between anesthesia and yoga. Anesthesia is a science where techniques are there to make the patient painless despite the patient being cut, wounded, bleeding, everything possible happening to the patient. Similarly, yoga is a science where there are techniques which help you to live dynamically in the moment, happy, content, at peace, despite being caught in the rigmarole of confusions and complications of life. So it is this inward journey. Yoga is just not on the mat, like anesthesia is just not behosh kar dena. This is what half the people think. Acha bas behosh kar diya, acha fir aapka kaam khatam. So it is just not on the mat. It is a journey where you connect with your inner self, your true self. Now, what is your true self? True self, like when we are born, we are just saints. जैसे महात्मा बोलते हैं, बच्चों भगवान का रूप होते हैं, and then we start getting layered with kleshas. So there are 5 kleshas. Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. Avidya is ignorance. This is the biggest of our kleshas, because we get so conditioned to desires, to kind of competitions, earning more, having a better job, a better home, a better car. So this is, and then we think this is life. यही जिंदगी है. So this is the biggest ignorance. And with ignorance comes ego, with avidya, because we think this यही जिंदगी है, मेरे को ये करना है और मैंने ये किया. So मैं, I, it's all about I and me. This is our inflated ego which we live with. And with ego comes this, rag and dvesh. Rag is your undue attachment to anything, and dvesh is your anger, envy, hatred. This is how we start living. And because we live in this fashion, which is, like ye jeena bhi koi jeena hai lallu, this is not the way to live. We are scared of death. Abhinivesh is scared of death because we have not truly lived. Had we lived, we would not have been scared of death. So, this science of being in this world, being like a word, like singing, dancing in a humane way, is human being. This is what makes you a human being, and that is what is yoga. So let me kind of take you into this journey of yoga. This sage Patanjali, who has written 196 sutras, beautifully crafted in Sanskrit, and introduced yoga in 8 ways. Ashtang yoga, 8 limbs to it. So I'm not going to talk about the 196 sutras, probably someday, but today it's all about 8 limbs of yoga. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. So let us talk it in your terms. PSC, Yam, Niyam. Induction is your Asan, maintenance is your Pranayam, and reversal is your Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan. I'm not going to talk about Samadhi because it's a concept above me. So probably someday, if I reach that stage. So we'll talk about Yam and Niyam first. So like PSC is like certain conditions have to be met. Here also, you have to condition your mind. Yam is how you relate to the society. So there are 5 yams. In yams comes ahimsa, satya, asatya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. So these are the 5 ways in which you should be conditioning your mind to the society. Ahimsa is, we've heard lots about ahimsa from Gandhiji, but to me ahimsa means don't hurt. Don't hurt anyone physically, mentally, emotionally. You know, and if you're not hurting, what is the environment which is being created around you? It is that of love, and you just flowing, grace follows you. That is what is ahimsa. What is satya? Satya is truth. Now what is being truthful? It's being authentic to yourself. Listening to your inner voice. Put on a mask in Corona times, N95 or whichever suits you the best, but no other mask, please. That is being authentic, truthful. Third is asatya. Now what is asatya? Asatya means non-stealing. So don't steal anyone's property in physical terms. Don't steal anyone's intellectual property. And thirdly, don't even drain anyone of that person's emotion. Blackmail is also kind of, emotionally blackmailing a person is asatya. So don't do that. Fourth is brahmacharya. Now brahmacharya doesn't mean being celibate. That can be a consequence if you follow this path. But it means divinity here. And how that divinity is coming, it's like a byproduct. Now that you have started by not hurting anyone, you have started by being authentic, you don't even desire what the other person has. That is the best thing of asatya, not even desiring what the other person has. Stealing to bahut dur ki baat hai, desire bhi nahi kar rahe ho aap. So that gets the divinity into you, that brahmacharya. And with brahmacharya, that divinity into you, what comes into you? Aparigraha. What is aparigraha? Aparigraha is simply being non-possessive. Not hoarding thoughts, hoarding dresses, hoarding cars, hoarding homes, clinging to thoughts, clinging to so many things. So it is a byproduct. It happens, it will happen. If you follow this path, you learn to declutter your thoughts, your environment. And sometimes I feel the possessiveness can go to that extent where we as adults start feeling we possess our own kids. Can you imagine? Children have come through us, but they belong to the future. They are not your property, so please don't cling to them. Enjoy your life, let them live, and this is what. Now you've settled things with the people around you. There is peace after you have followed the principles of yams, which I'll again repeat: ahimsa, satya, asatya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. Now you have to have peace with yourself. Again, 5 principles. You have to condition your mind. It's like before in the PSC, things have to be met before you induce the patient. So this is like that. Niyam is, there are again 5. I'll tell you: Shauch, Santosh, Tap, Swadhyay, and Ishwar Pradhan. So first come to Shauch. Shauch is simple purity, cleanliness. Physical. Now you are taking a bath and you're reciting a mantra, like I recite Gayatri Mantra, Om Bhurbhuva Swaha, or just a simple Om. Mind is also purified. Eat nice pure food. Is purity. And purity is anti-gravity. Purity is levitating. It's a beautiful feeling. You are not being pulled down. You are just kind of floating. Second is Santosh. You have to condition your mind to contentment. We have got so used to seeing the world through desires that, we are not aware what already is there. Contentment is just it's like saying yes to life. And being aware of so much is around us, we just have to be grateful for it. That is what is contentment. So, let go of the desires, be happy with needs, like we were during the lockdown period. We were actually, as families, so many of us were so happy and contented because our needs were being met and we were happy. So that is the way we should live every day. Now, tapa, that is, in English, it is called austerity. It doesn't mean sweating here and sweating there. No need to sweat. कोई हल नहीं चलाना हमने. Austerity is simply living, or living simply. Now that you are, you're pure in your thoughts and you have contentment, you're living every moment like a child, or like you would breathe, enjoying every moment. That is austerity. There's nothing else but austerity. So it is the most beautiful feeling. Just live. Don't have to manage so many things. Half the time we are like, I have to manage this, I have to manage this. Forget about it. Just start flowing and living. That is what is important. Now, what happens is that after you have lived with your cleanliness, with your purity, with your contentment, and you started, living dynamically every moment, there is Swadhyay. Swadhyay is now not dissecting yourself. Swadhyay is you start meditating on your own self. That journey has started. You start connecting with your own self, your true self. This is what is Swadhyay. You become, that awareness sets in. And this beautiful feeling of awareness by self-meditating is like, that is what starts the alchemy. It's like, what is mind? Mind is a succession of thoughts. Tuck, 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 tuck. And if you get aware of your thoughts, will you keep the ones which are harmful to you? No. We would keep ones which are joyous to us. So that process of joy starts blossoming. And then comes Ishwar Pranidhan. Ishwar Pranidhan as भगवान को surrender कर देना. अब भगवान is just a name. That Bhagwan can be the vastness, it can be the universe, it can be the cosmos. Basically, you disappear now that you become so pure and content and you're living dynamically every moment. And you are getting aware of yourself, meditating on yourself, you just disappear into the vastness. That is Ishwar Pranidhan. You are at peace with yourself. So, PSC done, Yam and Niyam. Now we come to asanas. You have to induce the patient. Now, very beautiful concept of asanas is by Sage Patanjali. These are all Sage Patanjali's sutras, which are the limbs which I'm talking about. How does he describe asana? He says asana is sthiram sukham asana. Any posture where you are sthir, stable, sukham, happy, that is an asana. Again, he goes further. It should be prayatna shaithilya, effortless. And in that state, when you are happy, you are stable, you are effortless, basically, then you ananta samapati, you surrender to the vastness. When you surrender to the vastness in a happy, stable, effortless state, what is happening? Dvando tato dvando anabhigat. The conflicts which are taking place, the dualities which are existing, the sukh, the dukh, the rag, the dvesh, everything, all those dualities, they cease. They just cease. This is the science. It happens. And then tato drishta swarupe avasthanam. The seer is established. You are a witness to yourself. The patient is induced. This is what it is. Asana. A simple example. Let me do a few, just tell you, this asana itself is called Shaithilya. Shaithilya means effortless. So what? In this asana, you would see babies actually sitting in this asana. I have my granddaughter who will be 1 this 11 June. And most of the time she's sitting in this asana. It's like straight, and then you fold your both the knees. This foot is touching, my right foot is touching my left thigh, and my left foot is touching my left hip. So this is Shaithilya, asana, sthiram, stable, happy, effortless. In this, I will surrender to the vastness. I will inhale and I will exhale, and now I will breathe normally. Inhale, come back. The other side, I'll just repeat it. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and so in this state, I surrendered to the vastness, became one with the vastness, my conflict ceased, and I am able to now get that concept of awareness. But you see, there are a few things which are very important. First is that you choose your own asana. It's like you will choose your own technique to induce whichever you are comfortable with. And it will come with experience, and every day is a new experience. Probably one day you would just be doing this, then you might shift on to like Vajrasan, then you might be doing this thinker's pose one day, then you might be doing a Dhyana Viramasan, and then you might be kind of doing a Gomukhasan. So don't think asana as contorting your body. It has nothing to do with contortions of your body. It has to be smooth. It has to be effortless. Because then only drishta swarupe avasthanam, then only can you be induced. So this relaxation part is very important, and I think you anesthetists understand relaxation more than anyone else, the concept of relaxation. So it is important that when you enter an asana, you should be relaxed. When you are in the asana, you should be relaxed. And when you come out of an asana, then also you should be relaxed. So I will just give you an example, like I want to do Bhujangasana. Bhujanga is when I'll be like prone. So first I will relax in the Bhujangasana. And this relaxation is called Makarasana. I'm relaxing. Explain about relaxation.
So, hey, see this relaxation lying prone, and I'm sure we all are used to the term proning, and we know the benefits of it. It's simply proning yourself and getting the advantage out of it.
So now that I'm in this, I'm relaxed, then I will align myself. This is called Samasthiti. That was Vishranti. Relaxation in English, Vishranti. Samasthiti. Now I will start Bhujangasana. I will get my palms near my ears. Inhale. This is the first variation. Exhale. I get my arms near my chest. Inhale. Exhale. Third variation. Inhale. I'm relaxed in this posture. Exhale. Again I align myself. Again I relax. Makarasana. And then I come back. So, most important concept of yoga and asana is Yatha Shakti, as per your capacity. No hurries, every day is a new experience, just keep doing it, you will find your niche. It's like that. So this was the concept of relaxation in asanas. Now, some very important concepts is that you should be doing a few pre-practices. It is important before, like suppose I have to sit cross-legged. Oh, if I am sitting cross-legged, I would be damaging my knee by rotating it if my hips were not used to abduction. So most important is I have to learn to abduct my hips. For abduction of the hips, this is a very simple Titli Asana. I'm doing a Titli Asana. I have posted videos of all these asanas, and if at any time Hetal feels that I could be taking more sessions if you want.
YouTube.
And they are on YouTube also. So this is a simple hip abduction. Then another hip abduction is, I just, kind of rock a baby. This is a very nurturing asana. You kind of nurture yourself and imagine that you're rocking your baby. Probably you have a small baby right now, or when your babies were small and you would sing lullabies to them. So, get that feel in you. Both sides, it's very important in yoga. The concept is samatvam, balancing. So at all times, you should be balancing your postures. If it is done on one side, the other side, it is important to do it on the other side. Like if you bend forwards, it's good that you do an asana which has a backward bend also. Then spine flexibility is very important for holding any asana, because it's very important to hold your spine correct and to have a correct posture. And they say you are as young as your spine is. I just forgot one point about this. It is very important to prevent osteoarthritis to do your hip abduction, because when you walk, standing posture, it is important that your center of gravity is between your 2 feet. What if you would have noticed people who have osteoarthritis, they walk in an adducted, their feet are adducted, and then it becomes a vicious cycle. The more adducted they walk, the more the weight of the body is coming on the knee. Ideally, it should be equally distributed on the hips, on your knee and your foot. It's important to, make your feet also strong. So, like simple, your toes, your ankles, every joint has to, you have to move. God has given us these joints to move our joints. So these are sukshma vyayams, they're called. Neck movements. We can take a session on them, but right now, I will be talking about how you have to get your spine to be flexible. So again, you can just kind of lean like you would, talking to a child. Suppose there's a baby in front of me, I want to talk to that baby, and I would kind of, come in this posture. So inhale and curl up, exhale and curve down. Inhale, curl up, exhale, curve down. It's good that you get some flexibility. And another very good pre-practice is to balance your hamstrings and your quadriceps is do a few stretches. These are also asanas, but I would not burden you with the names. Along the wall or along, like I do it along my cupboard. So I'll be sitting very close to my cupboard and I get my legs up. Now the curve of my spine is maintained. So this way, I'm balancing my quads and my hamstrings. I'm strengthening my calf muscles also by pulling my feet towards me. This I can do for a minute. And then I will be working on my adductors. Now this also you can do for a minute. Then I will be working on my abductors. Then I might, try to still strengthen all my muscles. So this is straight and this is resting on my thigh. And then I can feel a stretch here. I can get another stretch here. I can repeat on the opposite side. So just push it a little bit. Then feel the stretch here. Everything balanced and nice. So yoga is samatvam, and then I can do the Udarakarshan, slight stretch of the back while lying down. So this is simple. Like the other side. So this is like, these are the few pre-practices which ideally you should do before taking a posture. Now asanas, what is the importance? See what is happening, this awareness is setting in, you have been induced. Another important concept is that in yoga they say the body is made of koshas. Annamay, your physical body. Manomay is your man. Pranmay is your breath. Vijnanmay is your wisdom, your growth. And Anandamay is the kosha where you want to reach, your bliss. Now, you have seen that when you are angry, your body posture is different. If you are depressed, it's like, you're slumping. So similarly, body postures can affect your emotions. So if your body is flexible, your thought process will also be flexible. You will be flowing, you will not be rigid, and that is the best way to de-stress, to remain in a de-stress fashion. Not only you don't even think of stress because you are so flowing and so flexible in your thought and your body. So this is a very important concept. And then Another concept with body postures is that depending on the posture, there are four kind of attitudes which the body can cultivate according to yoga. So if a meditative posture, like I'm sitting in Vajrasana, will help me cultivate dharma bhav, that is duty. Then there are the dynamic ones and the balancing postures which help cultivate the Gyan Bhav, the growth, wisdom. Then there are the forward bending which help cultivate the Vairagya Bhav. Vairagya is the non-clinging, humility. And for confidence building or Aishwarya Bhav, you have the backward bending postures. So meditative postures, I've told you already, we can do a session later on if you want. Then for Dharma, then for Gyan Bhav, I will be doing Surya Namaskar after some time, and I can do one balancing pose which is called the Vrikshasana. That is also helps you give that one pointedness, that being rooted and still balanced, That is what is required in life. So just balance. You can do a pre-practice before doing it. So kind of, I have to be gazing ahead of me and fixing my attention at some point. Just a few pre-practices to learn to balance on one foot. Then suppose I'm balancing. So this is Vrikshasana. So we do it on both sides. Then there is this Vairagya, to cultivate the feeling of Vairagya. What is Vairagya? Vairagya means Bina Rang. You are not seeing the world tinted with with desires or contempt or the idea of envy, anger. You just see things as they are. It's so transparent. You are Bina Rang ke. It's like, this will give you that feeling of non-clinging also. So the best and my favorite in this is Shashankasana, in which you sit in Vajrasana, then you will inhale, and then you exhale, and you just go down. And while going down, I was breathing normally. So I call it my anger management asana. I kind of, to unplug and reset myself. This is the best asana that I realized. And it's not necessary sometimes, a bolus dose is equally important. For that infusion, you cannot be doing so many things in one go. So be a smart yogi. Whatever kind of strikes you at that time and you think it will align you, your mind, your body, emotions, it will align, do it. Suppose you are getting angry, do this Vairagya Bhav asana. It will make you a little settled, humble, and your anger will disappear. The moment that awareness sets in, that just you become aware that you're getting angry, just that awareness only will dissolve your, kind of let your anger go away. You will see it. It's like it happens. And then Aishwarya, if you are, sometimes you actually feeling a little low and you want that confidence to come into you, so you do the backward bending poses. One of the favorite backward bending poses, which my husband also tells me that you should do it, though I don't think so I need to do it. I'm a lioness all the time. It's called the Singhasana, in which I was sitting in the Vajrasana, then my knees go a little wider and my palms are facing towards me. I will inhale, and with exhalation I will pull out my tongue. I will make a roaring sound, and my focus will be at Dhru Madhya, in between my eyebrows. So you can laugh if you feel like laughing at me. My neck is extended and my back is also extended, so it's backward. So what is happening? Dr. Chopra will tell you what is happening during this asana.
So this is quite similar to PFT में जो हम करते हैं. This is a good indicator of PEFR, which is really important, especially nowadays with Corona thing. So if we do it regularly every day, So you will come to know about it, you will form a baseline to it. So if there is any decrease in your capacity to perform this, you will come to know, you can catch it up early to, whether you are having a pneumonia or a bronchospasm or something like that. It's something like bedside PFT that we do. We can do it daily for ourselves.
And my favorite backward bending is Chakrasana, because I actually feel, life is one circle, and I got this feeling. It just struck me so much when I held the firstborn of my firstborn, my granddaughter. When I held her in my arm, it was like life is one big circle. So I have to show you, that Chakrasana. And I can tell you the technique in the later videos. So, okay. I'll lie down in the supine position. Okay. I have to do it on the mat. This just slipped. I'll just do it on the mat and show you. Let's put that. I should be doing it on the mat. We can start again, I think. Sorry for the little confusion. So, I was actually relaxed when I went in that posture also. So that is important. I keep telling you. You will also be able to do it in the journey when you proceed. But now it is Yatha Shakti. Whatever you can do, aim is to get relaxed when you are in the posture. That is very important. So now the patient has been induced. The sear has got established. Now is the maintenance phase. So this is the most important phase. What is maintenance phase in yoga? That is your expansion of your awareness. So that is called pranayam. Ayam, expansion. Now what is prana? Let me tell you this concept. Basically in pranayam, we will be working on our kosha pranamaya kosh, which is that breath. So it is what we'll be concentrating is we will be breathing with awareness. So what will happen eventually is breath becomes automatic and awareness remains, expands. It remains and it expands. This awareness which is expanding, is your bioenergy, is your inner matrix. This is your vital force. This is your prana. Let me try and make you understand, call it unknowable because science has not proven it. But definitely you will, relate to the concept of vibes, aura, energy of a person. Some people make you so comfortable, and anesthetists do make me comfortable. So, and some people just make you so, kind of ill at ease. So there are certain vibes this is happening. There is certain energy which is flowing. So this energy is your bioenergy. Now this energy is resonating in you. And it is moving in channels, call them also unknowable. For practical purposes, I think the entire central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomic nervous system for a simple medical graduate is also unknowable, except for those neurosurgeons and neurophysicians and neuropsychiatrists who know the depth of it. It is so complicated, the number of receptors, number of nuclei, ganglia. I always think, let me be happy by calling even the nervous system unknowable. So, prana and the channels in which your bioenergy is moving, call it unknowable. Let us now proceed. So they say that this energy, as per yogic context, it resonates with the reverberations of the earth element of the universe. At your perennial level, these channels which are crisscrossing, they are reverberating with the resonance of the earth element. And here it is called your Mooladhara chakra. Mooladhara, your Adhar, your stability. Then these channels crisscross at the iliac region, and there they resonate with the resonance of the water element of the universe. That is called your Swadhisthana chakra. That is your own sthan. Then as you ascend up these channels, they resonate with the resonance of the fire element near your navel. So that is your Manipur chakra. You ascend up heart area, the resonance is similar to that of air. This is your Anhat chakra. And at C7, base of the neck, the resonance is equal to that of, similar to that of space. And the resonance here is similar. This is called Agya chakra. It is the between the Bhru Madhya. It is like acceptance. This is the resonance here is similar to that of the entire universe. Our Upanishads have stated, what is here is there. Here in us is there in the universe. What is not here is not there also. So you are such a powerful package. You have the entire universe inside you. You have to handle yourself with so much of care, and this is what you are, and you are the cosmos. This is precisely when your awareness has expanded. It expands to this kind of limit. So there is no limit. That is what it is. This is your alchemy. This pranayama is which is connecting you to the divine. No? So there are these chakras have been kind of like the way I do it. When I breathe with awareness at these chakras, I affirm, like I'll tell you what the technique I follow for my pranayama. I sit in Vajrasan, and then I will make a fist. My fist go in the armpits, cross, and thumbs pointing upwards, and I'm sitting in the Vajrasan. This is called Padadhirasana. Now this is the asana which is responsible for balancing of breath. That is what is required for your pranayama, where you are balancing your breath. Another concept which I would like you to know, and which is, I think you must have heard also, is the concept of Ida and Pingla. They say the left nostril is related, the breath, when you breathe through it, that is related to your parasympathetic nervous system. That is moon related. It gets introversion inside you. Parasympathetic is your craniosacral, and the right side is related to your Pingla. This is called Pingla Nadi, and it is related to your sympathetic or your thoracolumbar, and it makes you extrovert. So when you balance Ida and Pingla, basically by doing this technique of pranayama, you are balancing your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And while balancing them, what I do is I breathe with awareness on my chakras and reaffirm myself that, like when I am breathing with awareness on my Mooladhara, that is the earth element, I affirm that I am going to live with my stability. When I breathe with awareness on your Swadhisthana, that is your iliac region, I'm going to live with my self-esteem and self-respect. It is my sthan. Manipur is Mani, jewel. House of jewel, a blaze. It is your energy, your proactiveness, your zeal for life. I'm going to live with my zeal for life. Anha is Anhad. It is the sound that is produced without striking. Anhad. That is the sound of the universe. That's the sound of love, affection, care for yourself and the world. So I'm going to live with love, affection, care for myself and for the world. And Vishuddhi is C7. Vishuddhi is Shuddh. Very, very Shuddh. Vishuddhi. That means you're so honest at that time. And how can you be honest when you're living in an egoless state, without ego? So it is like living with stability, with self-respect, with your energy, with love, affection for yourself, with your honesty and egoless state, then you surrender to the universe. It is like a simple prayer which we have heard so many times. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. That is what life is all about. That is what yoga is all about, in simple words. So, when I sit in this Padadhirasana, I will inhale. While inhalation, first I will become aware of my Mooladhara chakra, that is at the perineal area, and affirm that I am going to live with my stability. Exhale through my Agya chakra. Then again inhale with awareness at my Swadhisthana. Live with my self-respect. Exhale through the Agya and then accept what is there for me. Inhale through Manipur. Live with energy. Exhale through Agya chakra, through Madhya. Accept it. Inhale through my Anhat. Awareness on my Anhat. Love, affection for myself and the world. And then exhale through Agya chakra. Inhale through with awareness at my Vishuddhi and exhale. So, and then in the last go, I inhale with awareness, earth, water, fire, air, space, and then I'm becoming a part of the cosmos. So, you can do it in a more relaxed. I was trying to demonstrate, so probably the technique, you have to do it your own way and experience your prana getting expanded and then you getting into that vastness and becoming a part of that vastness. So this is a very beautiful technique. Now, there are conventional techniques of pranayama. The conventional techniques involve two cleansing techniques which are called Vatniti and Kapalbhati. So in this Vatniti, what you are doing is just close your eyes. You can sit in any asana you want where you are comfortable. So basically, now that concept must have settled in your mind that asana is just a means to do pranayama. It's like you induce so that the patient can be maintained in the stage of anesthesia. So here, asana was just a means to get into this stage of pranayama. So the cleansing techniques which you can do is Vatniti and Kapalbhati. In Vatniti, you are kind of, inhaling, exhaling with awareness at your tip of the nose, and the rate could be anything between 60 to 70 per minute. It's like Dr. Chopra will tell you what I did while doing Vatniti.
Basically, she is breathing at a very high rate, so the flow of air is probably limited to the absolutely upper part of the respiratory tract, the nasal cavity, sinuses, and say probably throat. What it is creating turbulence in the sinuses. As a result of which, it helps in removing secretions and all that stuff, and it's a cleansing of the sinuses actually.
Then next is Kapalbhati, which is forced exhalation. So Kapalbhati is close your eyes, sit in any meditative pose, and it is Dr. Chopra will explain what Kapalbhati is doing.
See, then this Kapalbhati जो है, this is just the opposite of normal respiration, normal breathing. Normal breathing is an active inspiration and a passive expiration. Over here, it is active expiration. Again, there is you are creating turbulence in the respiratory airways and trying to cleanse tracheobronchial tree.
Then another very common technique, after you've cleansed, your sinuses are clean, your tracheobronchial secretions, probably you will have to get up once or twice to spit out. Then you can start with your Vilom Anulom. This is again balancing of breath. So it's simple, just try and remember you have to make inverted use. It's balancing of your Eta and Pingala, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So making inverted use. So I will be, and this is the posture, or you can simply use your thumb and little finger. It's just to give a little pressure to occlude one nostril. So I will be starting with exhalation of the left nostril. Then inhale, inverted U, inhale, close, inhale, close this, exhale through right. So this is, you initially try and keep your inhalation and exhalation equal proportion. Just concentrate on your inhalation, exhalation, sitting in a meditative pose. That does bring about changes which I'll explain later, and it does get your cortisol level low. It gets your parasympathetic and parasympathetic aligned. These are techniques where the results are there. And then another very beautiful pranayama is Bhramari, in which you will inhale and exhale through your nose, but while exhalation you will make the sound like the female humming bee, and your focus awareness will be at your Bhumadhya. It's like that sound, it just so resonates with the sound of the universe that you will feel that encompassing vastness, and you will get a bliss here, and which is like what you are aiming for. So simple, inhale, so this you can do 4 or 5 times. Even Om chanting is very, very, aligning. It's like you get that same feeling of, merging with the vastness. It's like your Acharan, Ucharan and Mansa, they all get aligned, and there is no conflict anywhere. So you can do Om chanting for 3 or 4 times. We can keep a session for that if Hital wants that. So it will be like inhale, exhale, so this also brings a lot of peace and stability inside. So now that we have maintained anesthesia, now reversal is important. So reversal is you have to get the patient back to the way you had met the patient at your PSC clinic or while you were doing your PSC, and hopefully with the surgical correction done. So it will happen actually under supervision. The reversal actually happens. So similarly, what is reversal in yoga? That is your pratyahar, dharana and dhyan. Pratyahar is you kind of start dissociating from your physicality. So that transformation has taken place. Dharana is you're able to concentrate on just one thing, say your breath or on a mantra. And dhyan is when you're merged with that vastness, when you have seen the divine, when your consciousness has met the super consciousness, kind of उसमें लीन हो जाती है जिसको कहते हैं. So that is your dhyan, and it just happens. So like reversal will happen if you're followed and you are a little aware and you're following the techniques rightly. So similarly, dhyan will happen because this is what is happening, that correction has taken place, no? That you are able to kind of see yourself as a witness. You can get dissociated from your body. You can get dissociated from your thoughts, your emotions. Just concentrate on the breath, and then ultimately you are so lost in the vastness that you don't even know whether you're breathing or not. That is not. If it happens, fine. If it doesn't happen, then also fine. It is just a journey. Even if you reach till dharana, just concentrating on breath, it's a wonderful experience. So just keep at it. It's more important to keep following the path, not give up. That is important. Now, in this position in dhyan, what has happened is that the true definition of yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. All the modifications of the mind have ceased. This is how Patanjali has defined yoga. All the modifications have ceased. And what are the modifications which we actually live with? The modifications which our mind lives with is praman, viparya, vikalp, smriti and nidra. What is happening? Our mind, either it is getting influenced by praman, evidence, or what you have read, something from the text, evidence, what is visible to you, or viparya, how you have interpreted it. It might be something and your interpretation is something. So it could be wrong interpretation also, but your mind is living with it. Then half the time it's living with vikalp, in the future, imagination, you're imagining, or with smriti, memories, your past, or you're sleeping. So, but when you are in dhyan, everything has ceased. The mind has stopped getting modified. So that is your entire journey till dhyan. Now, I said it's a science. Probably your technician would also know what is happening, but you would know because you've read those big books. You would know what is actually happening. All that is happening inside while those procedures were taking place of PSC, induction, maintaining, and then reversal. So here also changes are taking place. One change is cortisol level reduces, definitely it has been documented. Your GABA level increases, gamma aminobutyric acid level in the thalamus, in the limbic system, in the reticular activating system. It is working there. Then third very beautiful thing which is taking place is this amide which was discovered in 1992. It is called anandamide. It is produced endogenously in the body, and where is it present? It is present in the synaptic cleft. And where does it act? It acts on the postsynaptic membrane in the central nervous system on CB1 receptors, and in the periphery at CB2 receptors. And in the central nervous system, when it acts on the CB1 receptors, it will produce that cannabis-like effect, CB1, cannabis, bhang-like pleasure effect. And in the periphery, it will acts on the T cells and increases your immunity. It is destroyed by a hydrolase which is called FAAH, which is called fatty acid amide hydrolase. Now, how does your simple paracetamol act? It combines with FAH, whatever the reaction, so that FAH is not able to hydrolyze the anandamide, and it is present in the synaptic cleft for a longer duration. This is precisely what is happening when you are in this journey from your yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan. This is actually what is happening. Anandamide is retained 70% more in the synaptic cleft. It has been documented. So, it's like, there is a beautiful asana also which is called Anand Madira Asana, intoxicating bliss pose, in which you feel the intoxication of alcohol by just doing this asana. So it is this Ananda mind which is being retained. If you're interested, I can just tell you this Anand Mandira asana, in which you have you're sitting in Vajrasana, simple Vajrasana, and here you're holding your the feet with your fingers inwards and your thumb pointing outwards, and you're breathing normally, and you're concentrating at Bhumadhya, that is your Agya Chakra. And you sit in this Yatha Shakti 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. After some time, you actually start feeling the intoxicating bliss. See, what is happening is that this is like, inaction is giving rise to so many changes. And when there is inaction, what happens to ego? Your ego flops. Ego, it kind of thrives on action. Now, by inaction only, you are, so much at peace, so much at bliss, so much of Anandamide inside you, that your ego will just flop, and when your ego flops, you are nearer to your true self. You're nearer to divinity. Okay, now, if time is permitting, I wanted to tell you a few things about Surya Namaskar. So this, which I had told you, this will help you develop the attitude of Jnana Bhav, how to grow in life. And it is a very important concept in yoga. So there are 4 things to Surya Namaskar. There are 12 postures, and in each posture you have to be thinking about the posture you are doing, that is your asana, the breath, the mantra which is associated with it, and the awareness at the chakra during that posture. So I'll demonstrate. I will demonstrate first with the mantras, or just first with the postures, then with the mantras, then with the breath, and then with chakra awareness. So this will get you rolling. In the mornings you can do a few pranayams, like your cleansing practices, then sit in Padadhira and balance your breath, and then you can do your Surya Namaskar. So I will first tell you the postures. First is the Pranamasana. Second is Hasto Uttan. Third is Hasto Pardana. Fourth is your Ashvasanchalan, which is a low lunge. Fifth is your Parvatasana. Sixth is your Ashtanga Namaskar. Seventh is your Bhujang, and now we will go in reverse. 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is reverse. Parvat, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. 12 postures. The breath is while I'm bending back, I'm inhaling, and bending forward, I'm exhaling. Only place where I'm breathing normally is the first posture where I'm doing Pranamasana, and I'm holding my breath in the 6th posture, which is called Ashtanga Namaskar, where I am prostrating, and and my body is touching the earth at 8 places. It is touching at both my toes are touching my knee, my chest, my palm, and my forehead. This is Ashtanga Namaskar. So now I'll do it with inhalation. This is normal breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Now I shift my weight and I hold my breath. Ashtanga Namaskar. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale and exhale. Now I'll do it with mantras. Mantras are basically I'm invoking the sun god by reciting the mantras and praising the sun lord for the qualities that the sun possesses, in the hope that few of those qualities will come back to me. So it is Om Mitraय Namaha in this posture. It's like sun is a friend to me, and let me also be a friend to myself and the world around me. Then Om Ravaya Namaha. Ravaya means the shining one. I am just kind of getting lost in the magnanimity of the light of the sun, and I also want to be the shining one in my life. Then is Suryaya Namaha, the strength of the sun. I am going to the strength of the sun. And here it is Bhanave Namaha. It's beautiful. I also want to be beautiful like the sun. Bhanave Namaha. Then Om Khagaya Namaha. Khagaya is bird. It denotes activity. Let me also not be having too much inertia. No? Then Om Pushne Namaha. Nourisher. Sun is the nourisher. Let me also be a nourisher to myself and the world. Then Hiranyagarbhaya. It's the cosmic life. It starts with that sperm and ova and that cosmic life. Then Mariche Namaha. The dawn, the new, everyone wants that new beginning. Then Adityaya Namaha. Adityaya is the inspirer. I'm praising the sun, the quality that it has of being an inspirer, and I also want to have that quality. Then is Savitre Namaha. Now what is Savitri? You've heard that story in which Savitri gets her husband back, his life back. So sometimes you want that your life back. You might have gone through a bad spell and you just want your life back. So I want that quality in me. And then Arkai Namaha. Arkai means limitless. I'm so in awe of the limitless, the magnanimity. And let me also be limitless. Let me not be so constricted in my thought process. And Om Bhaskaraya Namaha, another name for Sun Lord. So this is how I'll do it. The way I do it 12 times, and each time I do one mantra like Om Mitraయ Namaha, and I'll do the 12 postures. Om Ravaya. So as you wish. Just have that concept, and then you can develop your own. Now comes the fourth part is with chakra awareness. Very important, because chakra awareness is what is going to give you affirmations. And a part of my talk is also on stress management, as Hetal had told me. So these chakra awareness and affirmations become a very important, vital part of that stress management. So when I am doing this, where is my chakra? At pranam, my awareness is at Anhar chakra. So I will be affirming to myself that I'm going to be loving and kind to myself as well as the world. Then when I go in this position, my awareness is at Vishuddhi. So I'm going to live in that no ego state. When I'm bowing down, and that you should always bend from your lower back, sacral area, please. Then here Swadhisthana chakra. Swadhisthana is your sthan. I'm going to live with my self-respect. Then during the lunch, my awareness is at my Agya chakra. I'm going to accept what comes my way after having lived with my self-respect, my honesty and my love. I'm going to kind of, accept in what comes my way. Then comes your Parvatasana. Here also awareness is at Vishuddhi chakra. So I'm going to live a life of honesty without ego. And when I am shifting my weight and doing Ashtanga Namaskar, see my toes, my knees, my chest. Here I'm holding my breath. My awareness is at my Manipur, the navel area. So I decide to live with my zeal for life. And in Bhujangasana, it is again at Swadhisthana. Swadhisthana is the iliac area. So there is your self-respect. And then again, I'm going to live with my honesty and egoless state. And here, when I do again the Ashwasanchalan, here my awareness will be at my Mooladhara. So Mooladhara is I'm going to live with my stability. Swadhisthana. Vishuddhi, and Advaita. So these are, kind of your affirmations. Now that suppose you do it 12 times or Chatha Shakti 2 times, 1 time, as you wish. After this, ideally, what I do is go into Shavasana and do Yoga Nidra. So that is a perfect way to enter Dhyan. So if you people will do with me, it is like you'll have to lie down. So I'll just give you the concept basically, or I might tell you something. Okay. So we are just nearing just another 5-10 minutes. So I will lie down in the Shavasana. Now, Shavasana, this is an asana. See, the concept of asana doesn't mean I have to contort my body. This is also an asana. I'm relaxing in it. And I'm tired and I deserve my relaxation after Surya Namaskar. Then I will be dividing my time equally, say a minute where I will get aware of my body. Then for a minute, I will get aware of my breath. For a minute, I will get aware of my thoughts. And then Dhyan will happen. I will get lost in the vastness of the universe. The Dhyan will happen. So when you're lying down, just relax, and then we'll do it quickly. Just kind of concentrate on your right toe, right ankle, right knee, right hips, right chest, right shoulder, right forearm, right arm, right thumb, right fingers, your neck, your chin, your lips, your cheeks, your forehead, your back of the head, your neck again, left shoulder, left arm, left elbow, left forearm, left wrist, left thumb, left fingers, left chest, left abs, left hips, left thigh, left legs, left ankle, left toe. Drop your physicality. Concentrate on your breath. Every breath you take in, your navel goes up. Every breath you take out, your navel goes in. Inhale, navel goes up. Exhale, navel goes in. Do it for a minute. Concentrate on your breath. सांस अंदर, पेट बाहर, सांस बाहर, पेट अंदर. Let's just concentrate on your thoughts. During this time, I generally affirm, do a few affirmations. I concentrate on my Mooladhara. I will live with my stability, my Swadhisthana, my self-respect, my Manipur, my energy, my Anhat, my love, affection, my equal estate, Vishuddhi. And then I surrender to the universe and see my energy moving in unending circle, just moving with inhalation, exhalation. And so this is just, I'm trying to demonstrate. You will actually kind of, during this stage, you will experience Dhyan. So it is a very wonderful feeling. And when you get up gradually and do Om chanting for 2-3 times. And you can say a small prayer also, which I generally say because it just sums up what the way we should behave. It is Om Sehna Bhavatu, let us be protected together. Om Sehna Bhunattu, let us be nourished together. Om Sehviryam Karvavahe, let us work together in an aligned fashion. Om Tejasvina Vadhitamastu, so that our Tej, our intelligence grows together. Ma Vidvishavahe, without any animosity. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So this is the kind of inclusiveness which we experienced during Corona times also. And we lived with this inclusiveness and that time passed off. So this inclusiveness should become a part of us. And now I would want to conclude. So this was like stress management. So one mantra which Sage Patanjali has given, which I also follow, it's called Chit Prasadana. Chit Prasadana means how to keep yourself, your chit happy always. So there are 4 kinds of people: Sukh, Dukh, Punya, Apunya. What should be your attitude towards these 4 kinds of people? For Sukh, it is Maitri. For Dukh, it is Karuna. For Punya, it is Mudita. For Apunya, it is Upeksha. So people who are Sukhi, be friends with them. No? People who are Dukhi, have empathy for them, but don't drain yourself. You should be in that position that you should be empathetic without draining yourself. Very important. Then Punya, people who are progressive. People who are doing well and like they kind of just light the atmosphere wherever they go. Just positive people. For them, you should be joyful. You should not be jealous. That is very important. And for Apunya, people who are pulling you down, who are aggressive in their thought process, just ignore them. Now there is this, Sage Patanjali has also given this concept of Pratipaksh Bhavna. For people who are Punya, the people who are progressing, instead of feeling joyous or, feeling nice about them, you are feeling jealous of them. So replace this thought of jealousy with joyfulness for people who are progressive. We have to work at it. So this concept is also there. Now, I think stress management, how I would like to conclude is, remember your A's. Anjana, forget it. That was a joke. So it is awareness, affirmations and acceptance. Awareness, affirmations and acceptance. This will definitely lead to an increased level of Anandamai. You will be so pleasurable. You'll be loving everyone and you'll be so grateful. And when you are grateful, what is prayer basically? Prayer is the fragrance of gratitude. That is what is a prayer. So you will always be in prayer mode. So that is what it should be. So condition your mind with yam and niyam and then sit in an asana to get into awareness. Then expand your awareness and become one with the vastness of the universe and enjoy the bliss. So I am very happy interacting with all of you, and I'm very happy that my husband listened to me for 1 hour, more than an hour. So see you, and if you all wish, we can meet again. And I have my videos on YouTube if you feel like. So this was my maiden venture. I'm very happy that it happened with you people because I really bond with you. And thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.